join. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's BPMA session on the state of the PM job market from a recruiter's perspective. My name is Pamela Nasser. I am the Director of Programming at the BPMA. If you are new to the BPMA, we are a volunteer-led professional association that supports product managers, marketers, and designers in the greater Boston area through monthly events, in person and virtual, like the one we're having today, curated content, and a mentorship program that we run twice a year. The application actually for the spring mentorship program are open now. So if you are interested, you can learn more through our newsletter. A quick thank you to our sponsors, starting NDT, who are actually here with us today. NDT has been with the BPMA since the very beginning. NDT helps companies of all sizes recruit top-tier superstars and match candidates with their perfect corporate culture. And we are very happy that they are here with us today to share their expertise with the BPMA community. We also want to thank Localize. Localize help global teams manage translations at scale by fitting right into your existing development workflows. As product managers and product marketers, we need to credibly address a global audience, and Localize makes this much easier to do. So thank you once again to both NDT and Localize for their support. We'd love for you to save the date for our upcoming event. That's going to be on Tuesday, May 19th at 6 p.m., location TBD. The event will be with Martin Eriksson, who is the founder of Product Tank, as well as the co-founder of Mind the Product. And Martin will talk to us about his latest book, The Decision Stack, which is a decision-making framework for product managers and how you can apply that framework as you are evaluating your product strategy for AI. So a very timely topic, and we hope you can join us. For today's event, I know it's noon on the East Coast, but if you're able to turn your camera on, we encourage you to do so. And if you haven't done so already, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, your title, and where you are joining us from. The format today is that we'll go through a couple slides, kind of showcasing the overview of the market. Then we'll switch to a fireside chat that is based on your pre-submitted questions. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions in Eventbrite. And then we will have time at the end for live audience Q&A. So if you want to save your questions for that section, you'll be able to raise your hands and ask questions as we go.
Great.
Right. With that being said, I'd love to introduce our speakers for today, starting with Risa Khan. Risa is the founder of RK Resume Consulting, as well as a senior recruiting manager at NDT. Risa has over 25 years of experience helping product and technology professionals land interviews and advance their careers. And again, we're very happy to have Risa with us here today. Larry Khan is the VP of recruiting at NDT, where he has spent decades connecting high-growth companies with top talent. He specializes in permanent placement across product management, engineering, marketing, sales, and technical operations, giving him a front row view into how hiring needs and candidate expectations have evolved and continue to evolve over multiple market cycles. So again, we're happy to have Larry as well today to walk us through what is currently changing in the current market cycle. So with that being said, I'll hand it off to Larry to give us a market overview.
Great. Thank you very much, Pamela, and it's a pleasure to be here today. I just want to start off with a few points. So I've been in recruiting in high tech in the Boston market for over 30 years. And people who I speak to will say this is one of the toughest markets they've been in, and it's very hard. It can be very depressing for a lot of people. My feeling is don't get down. Things will get better. Things are getting better. And this is not the worst market I've seen. So we've had other markets where there's been no movement at all. In today's market, there is movement. It's just taking a little bit longer. So I was telling Pamela before our conversation this afternoon, we just got a brand new retained search just this morning for a vice president of customer acquisition. And it's a very interesting job. because I need someone who has some traditional growth marketing experience, someone who is very strong in growth marketing, but some more modern experience, someone who is has a very strong AI mindset and who is done some interesting work around using AI to make marketing decisions and to drive growth. So that position will be posted to our website over the next few days. It's a great company. It's a very profitable, long-standing company where we've placed a number of candidates over the years. But just to give everyone a sense of where the market is, when you feel as though there's doom and gloom and there's no way out, there is, and every day is a new day. So hopefully you'll keep that mindset moving forward. Let's get into the presentation. So I was asked, what has really shifted in today's market? What are companies looking for? How do you, as a candidate, prepare yourself for those types of employer interviews? I think the key is companies want to see demonstrated outcomes. They're very interested in knowing what was the challenge or what was the new opportunity. What did you do specifically, or what did you do as part of a team? And then what was the result? So anything that you can talk about that shows that type of equation-like thinking is going to help you both on your resume as well as when you go to interview. And that's the way you should be thinking. What have I done that can really show a quantifiable result and be able to explain that in a succinct way during an interview? So how has that shifted? That goes back to what I just mentioned in terms of demonstrated outcomes. That topic, I think, is a little bit different than maybe what we've had in the past, which is having bullet points on your resume or describing things that you've done as part of just as a team. Now companies want to see the numbers behind what you've done. And again, it doesn't mean that you're able to quantify everything specifically to you. It could be as part of a team that you're on. So if you're still growing in your career, if you're more junior or more middle level and you haven't had that leadership experience yet, where you have the opportunity to control a number, at least talk about what the team was able to do and what you were able to do in it. Anything about the environments that you've been in is very important. So companies want to know, where have you been? Have you been at startups before, and are you used to that type of rigor? Or if you're interviewing with a larger company, can you give some examples of where you've really scaled up and that you can do much larger projects that have more of a monumental type of outcome? So they want to see that level of experience, and you're being able to talk about those things is important. Technical fluency. So that does not mean that you've got to be an engineer or have a computer science background, but you've got to be in the game. You've got to be a good reader. You've got to keep up with the trends. Obviously, the hot topic today is anything related to artificial intelligence. So what courses have you taken? What seminars have you been to? How do you network with other smart AI professionals so that when ideas come up, you're able to have an opinion? And you might be asked your opinion during an interview, and you should be able to at least talk through and have an intelligent conversation. Even if you don't know all the answers, you should be able to contribute to that. And then it's having that expertise. So any type of industry expertise is important. What we're finding is that companies, because budgets are tighter, if you've come from their industry or you've sold into or marketed into to an industry that is either theirs or connected to what they're working on, it might give you a leg up just because you're walking in as a new employee, having much more experience and understanding for your customer than if you hadn't been in that world. So pre-COVID, so this is going back and you have to clear the cobwebs in your mind. So what was important at that time? I look back and look at job descriptions that came in 2018, 19, 20. A lot of product jobs required Agile and Scrum familiarity, product road mapping, just examples of understanding your customer. Obviously, anything to do with software as a service was very hot at that time. And some of those things are still important today, but comparing a job description to pre-COVID versus what we're seeing over the last year, you can see there's a difference in terms of what companies are looking for and what they value. I think they hired, how did companies hire back then? It was a lot of your judgment and your teamwork and things of that nature. There were a lot of adjectives, entrepreneurial and self-starter, and companies valued those types of traits. Now it's they don't want to see it called out as much. They just expect it. It's a little bit different, and we're going to touch on that again in another two slides. So post-pandemic, that was an interesting time. So we're talking probably late 2022, 23, and then into early 24. And I think what remained there is stakeholder management, prioritization, communication. Those were all very important buzzwords on job descriptions at that time. Also, anything data or analytics driven. Again, people who had those experiences really put a lot of emphasis on their resume around data and analytics, which is a good thing. And it sort of led us to where we are today. But today, we're going to be looking for that plus more. So it's interesting to see the evolution. And we were starting to see the beginnings of AI on job descriptions. Not many job descriptions, when I look back over those years, had anything pointing to AI, but there were a few companies that were ahead of their time that were doing some work with AI, and it was still very in its earlier days. And candidates who had that type of experience tended to be more on the technical side, maybe a little less on the business side, and those who were product managers or product marketing people were learning from the engineers. And obviously that continues to change and evolve to where we are today. So today, it's all about AI. So you've got to realize that AI is, whether you believe in it, don't believe in it, it is here. And companies are taking it very seriously. We're still in the early days, in my opinion, where companies are playing around with it. Some companies have mastered their strategy around AI and sort of know the areas where it's going to help the most. Other companies are still figuring it out a bit and determining, where it's going to play the most significant role in their company. So what does that mean for you? So any examples of AI depth and curiosity. So what does that mean? So, what do you work on in your free time? What are some of the AI tools that you've used that have been successful and why? And successful meaning in your work. So why have you used them? What has the outcome been? And, do you have an AI curiosity? What interests you and, makes you sort of push the envelope a little bit? What do you study so that you're going to be a step ahead and understand and, be able to master some of the concepts out there? Scale and strategic action. Again, companies want to see action orientation around AI. Now, have you built anything related to AI that has helped with your productivity, any cost savings, anything positive in your on your team, in your company environment? So companies want to see that you've been forthcoming and you've taken AI as a priority. And then quantifiable results. Anything that you can point to in your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, in your conversations when you interview, about what you've done and what was the result. So again, if you can think of on that equation, what was the opportunity of the challenge? What did you do individually, or what did you do as part of a team? And then what is the quantifiable result? That will set you up quite well for your interviews. And then ongoing problem solving. So companies want to see that you have that level of tenacity and that curiosity, that you're constantly trying to figure out ways to help your organization be better. And better can be defined in many different ways. But if you can create a good story around what you've done to make your organization better using AI, it will help you during your interviews.
Awesome. Well, with that context in mind, first, thank you, Larry, for walking us through that. I want to segue into our fireside chat section, which is again based on the audience pre-submitted questions. So the first segment is going to be around, Larry, you've already alluded to that, the elephant in the room, which is the impact of AI on hiring.
Yeah.
And the first question, actually, I'll address it to Risa. With AI making building easier, have you seen that product management jobs have trended more towards strategic roles, or are there still builder roles out there, or is it a combination of both? Oh, and you're on mute, Risa.
Here I am. What we are seeing and hearing from the market is that it's trending towards a hybrid of both builders and strategists. I can tell you myself, as I'm speaking to product managers, I'm asking them how they're utilizing AI just to get a sense of how individual talent is figuring it out and what companies are doing. And so what we're finding, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, I'm finding that PMs are utilizing AI for prototyping, to automate workflows, to test ideas quickly, turning them from coordinators into active builders. So this is reducing the reliance on engineering. And I can tell you it's been a challenging market for new grads this year that are software engineers. So there's a shift. I like any shift or new trend, we'll see how it all settles out. I don't believe that, engineer developers there won't be a need for developers, but product managers can definitely do a lot to develop a prototype that may have taken a month, 2 months. They can do that in a day to a week, so that product managers and companies can much quickly iterate on product ideas. I did want to share something. Again, we want to continue on the theme of being positive, and there's a lot of positivity out there. And I'm going to just share a few excerpts from this response this past week, I believe it was, from a product management leader that we've worked with who's in the fintech space. And I know a number of people on this call today are from that space. Basically, what he was concluding, that there's a very positive outlook on the relationship between AI and human partnership. So absolutely, we are watching AI systems do things that we didn't think were possible, radically transferring new product development, will solve difficult problems that have plagued industries for decades. But the universe of unsolved problems is so vast, and the cost of attacking them is dropping so fast, that the constraint will not be what is there left to do. It will be who has the initiative to go and do it. So the advice is simple. Learn about these new technologies, and it's your responsibility and expectation that you will. Be intellectually curious, and companies continue to look for product managers that are intellectually curious. And then start attacking these problems, building with AI as your lever, and human judgment will be used as your compass. So AI is not replacing the human, but the human needs to expect that they should be using AI.
Got it. As a follow-up to that question, Risa, how can candidates demonstrate that AI competency or fluency if they are coming from either industries that haven't adopted the technology yet, or maybe they have been out of the market in the last year or so and haven't had the chance to actually build with AI and demonstrate outcomes?
So the onus is on the individual. So if your company is not yet utilizing AI, then you should be the innovator, the initiator. There are so many. I recently, some universities in the Boston area have reached out to us recently to ask us about the certification programs that they should be offering. And what product managers will see more than, when I first started recruiting over 25 years ago, there were not degree programs for product managers. People were learning, growing up in the technology world and learning. They may have been engineers and they evolved into a product management role. Nowadays, they're what you can find as talent, if you haven't looked yet, you will continue to see ways to gain experience. A lot of the programs are free through the universities. There are micro certifications. So this should be demonstrated on a resume. So I can tell you I'm working with a number of people on their resumes, and the expectation should be on there. How have you utilized AI? Is there coursework you've been taking? What are you studying? In Boston right now, there are endless opportunities to be out and networking and being at events, through MIT. And that should be mentioned on a resume and in an interview.
Got it. Yeah, and I'll say that for like outside of the university space, which we have a lot of in Massachusetts, there's also like some private efforts, like Mass AI Coalition is one of them. I also know like Google has also partnered with the state to offer free certifications and courses that folks can also go through and demonstrate or put on their resume as well if you don't have the opportunity to practice those skills in your job. Larry, a question for you. Are there any PM job areas or titles or roles that you predict will be less needed or maybe completely disappear in the near to long-term future?
Product managers traditionally would get involved with doing maybe some research or documentation. And I don't think that, those skills are going to be needed as much. I think what's going to be more focused on sort of a balance between strategic work and sort of being in the weeds. And it's really going to depend on the cycle that the company is in at the time, as to the type of work you're going to be doing. So you've got to show that you can scale. But I think some of the more content-driven or research-driven aspects of a product job are not as important, that you can cover that through AI.
Okay. Risa, another question for you, and this is an interesting one. When we're interviewing, just as much an employer is evaluating a candidate should be also evaluating the employer. So we got a few questions around how candidates can evaluate where a prospective company is on the AI adoption curve or the AI maturity curve, and how that could impact their investment in a product organization and in PM roles specifically.
That's a really good question. And what we're finding is this shouldn't be any type of assumption. It's hard to tell from the outside, but as a person is interviewing, they may ask, are there company-wide initiatives? So we're really seeing three different approaches, or there are probably more, but overall company-wide initiatives to automate processes, decrease costs. Some companies are having certain representatives from different disciplines come together as an offshoot team, remove themselves, come together in a group and work on different AI initiatives and then bring that back to their teams. And then a number of companies are just having individuals figure it out on their own, and people are more informally sharing that information. So those are good questions. And I would think a hiring contact interviewing a candidate would stand up and take notice if someone asked them, what is the company doing from an AI initiative standpoint?
Got it. I'm gonna move us into kind of the second segment. But to be honest, it also kind of ties into the AI topic as well, around getting past kind of the gatekeepers or the typical gatekeepers that we're familiar with. Larry, a question for you. With resumes and ATS being heavily AI augmented today, is the only way to be successful in your job search networking?
It's a good question. Networking is definitely a critical aspect, but it's not the only aspect. So, first of all, in order to get past an ATS system, you've got to make sure that your resume is very modern, and has the words that these ATS systems that are driven by AI are going to pick up. So that's going to be very specific around the job description that you're applying for and your background. So I would say that's one piece of it. In general, once you get past the ATS system, that's when the real work begins, in my opinion. Because if you get selected for an interview, you've got to be on your toes in these times. And a lot of that is the value of the prep, the interview prep, what you have. So Risa will touch on that, but I cannot emphasize enough where good candidates will master their resume, but they're not really ready for the type of interviews that companies are expecting of them. In general, sort of let's back up before the ATS system. What we've talked about today is the importance of networking, the importance of having sort of your own brand, your own your resume, your LinkedIn, your whole outward presence be in sync and be interesting and be modern. Risa will speak a little bit more on that, but that's very important because companies are looking at multiple candidates for one job and what's going to make you stand out from the pack. I also will say you've got to have good relationships with recruiters, recruiting firms like us. So it has to be part of your strategy. You've got to have people who are working with you on your job search so that they have a good understanding of what you're looking for, what your strengths are, and what's realistic. Many times candidates are coming to us saying, well, I've been looking for a job for X amount of months and I don't have any luck. Part of it is that their expectations are not aligned. They're applying for jobs that are either not in the realm, that they're not qualified at all, or they're overqualified, underqualified. There's not a match. So it's great to have, expectations that you want to, vie for something larger than what you've been used to, but you also have to have a group of companies and jobs that are realistic. So very similar to applying to colleges. And Risa and I have two kids who have just gone through that process. You've got to have your reach schools, your middle line schools, and your safety schools. And that's the way to approach the mindset of a job search today.
Larry, a follow-up on that final note around adjusting expectations. Have you seen that candidates have had to adjust their expectations a bit too much, like maybe undersell their capabilities in this market, or is it, what are some of the trends maybe that you've seen?
That's it happens sometimes. So, as I started the conversation today, the market is a challenging market, but it's not a terrible market. So it ebbs and flows really by the day. by the week, by what's on the news. There's just a lot coming at all of us every single day, and you've got to embrace that. It's just that's part of the world we're living in today. So, yes, candidates have had to adjust their expectations. There are some candidates who are fortunate and they can wait it out. They can wait for that job that they're really vying for. Other candidates can't. They have bills to pay and expectations of an income, so they might have to adjust it. What I don't like to see people do is, unless you're really forced to do it, is to rush and take a job that you know in your heart is the wrong job for you. And wrong could be defined by each person. It might be just responsibilities that are just not in your they're the wrong responsibilities for you, meaning that you've already done those
Right.
years ago, and or you're working on something that just has no interest, or more importantly, the people who you're going to be working with are just not your people, and you can see that from the outside. That's what I don't like. But if it's a job where you say, I'm going to be doing some things that I really don't love, I really don't want to be doing it, but there are some other things here that I'm going to be learning, and I can have that tailored on my resume going forward. So, if I leave this job in 2 years, I'll at least have some really good experiences that I can share with my next employer.
Got it. Yeah, that's fair. There's always an opportunity to learn and something positive from most roles that you can take. I'm actually gonna just switch us over a bit to the chat. It looks like kind of question in the context of AI and maybe adjusting our expectations. Hillary, I'll ask your question, but also feel free to unmute if you want to add more context. Risa, Larry, do you have any advice for product managers or job seekers in general who are maybe a bit torn about the ethical implications of AI? You both mentioned that now it's kind of a bit of like table stakes, it's an expectation. How can you balance the need to keep up and adapt and change with maybe some of your moral compass to a certain extent?
I can sort of address that a bit. Again, that is a very personal thing. So I don't know that I can give a full answer because I think that there's when you talk about AI and ethics, it's a very large topic. So I think bottom line is, what is the job you're going to be doing? What is the company strategy around that? And do they, if their basic AI ethics are not in alignment with yours, just the basics, you already know that you're making a mistake by joining. If there are aspects of their AI ethics that you feel are something that you can sort of live with and understand and sort of grow with, then it's something that you want to consider. I think, again, this is all evolving over time. So, again, if the basics don't resonate with you, it's not going to be a good match. If there are aspects that you feel could be better, then maybe that's your opportunity to come into a company. And if you have good communication and you can build respect amongst other team members, it's your opportunity to help change the conversation a bit and see if you can make a difference around their thoughts and policies around AI and ethics.
Yeah. I'd like to just add something just quickly, so I know for time purposes. What we're seeing as one of the most newly created roles this year is the AI and data engineer, and it may be different titles at different companies. But the point I want to make is some companies are approaching the use of AI from a company-wide initiative standpoint. So it's very much structured and controlled and discussed so that everybody's going about it the same way and utilizing data coming from multiple sources the same way. Other companies, it's more of a hodgepodge, ad hoc, and you have to know yourself in general, which type of environment you're more comfortable in.
Yeah, and I'll say, leave it at Hillary and others. Like one of the topics I've been noodling on from a programming perspective is AI governance, ethics, and risk. And I see that someone actually left a reference for a speaker. So that could be like potentially a future BPMA event.
It's a very
Uh,
big topic. It's a very big
it's a very
topic.
big topic. Yeah, governance on its own is a very big topic. And a lot of companies are kind of figuring it out as they go of like establishing internal
It's
governance. Yeah.
ongoing and it will continue to be ongoing. And
Yeah.
also we'll see what state and federal government do with it as well. So
Yeah.
it's a big topic. But when it comes down to it and getting back to the root of your question, Pamela, um, you've got to feel comfortable as a potential employee. And if it doesn't work for you, then I think you already have your answer.
Yeah. Reciting it, yeah, maybe the last question in this segment. This question actually was in reference to our March BPMA event around navigating the path to product leadership in the age of AI. The panelists, there was a consensus around like soft skills are your differentiator. Whether you're good at stakeholder management, communication, managing up, managing down. How can candidates demonstrate soft skills first in their resumes and applications, and then once they get in front of a hiring manager and an interview panel? Do you have any interview tips that where you can demonstrate these harder to demonstrate soft skills?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I just want to go back to the question around your network.
Yeah.
Your best bet in this market is your network because it's much easier for somebody to introduce you from a soft skill perspective verbally. So that could be a recruiter because we have established relationships with companies and they trust that if we're presenting someone, it's worth their time. So it may be a recruiter, it may be a previous colleague, it may be a neighbor, a friend. The resume still has to represent the person well. So people are happy to help you and they'll hand their resume off. In the resume, it's a bit trickier. So what I do when I work on resumes is that the resume should always have a 3 to 5 line, clear and concise introduction, who you are and what you're looking to do as it relates to the position, weaving in a bit of your personality. So I've been able to work with clients to be very creative and injecting a bit of personality and a sense of soft skills in the intro because there's only so much you can get into a resume that's going to jump off the page in a 4 to 6 second scan by a human, or the applicant tracking software is only going to pick up the verbiage that matches the job. In an interview, that's different. There is your time to shine. Be ready with those stories again, as Larry started to explain. So, what was the challenge you were presented with? What was the action you took, and what were the results? And what was your involvement? And the theme that should come across is that you have been an innovator, an initiator. You have led a team. You have led the initiative. You've been the person to bring other people together. So showing clearly your good communication skills.
Those are both good tips, Risa, on both your resume and then getting your stories ready for when you get the interview. I'm going to move us to the final segment, which is around breaking into a PM role and then pivoting, and there's already, I think, questions in the chat around that. Risa, this is a question for you. Can I break into a product management role in the current market if I am a recent graduate or a student about to graduate?
It would be one of your harder markets to break in. But over the course of my career in recruiting, and I saw someone today that's in the audience, he will know who he is. He did a phenomenal job. Before he ever had the title of product manager, we were able, in partnership together, to create a resume that showed his progression of product management responsibility. So he worked in the fintech space. He was maybe a business analyst at one point, a project manager. And so although he didn't have that title, we were able, and he was able to speak about his product management responsibilities. So my recommendation to early career talent is that you do not have to have the title product management, but a business analyst role or a project management role that gets you into a company within an industry of interest where you can work side by side with product management is your best opportunity in this market to grow your career in product management.
Got it. Have you seen any like specific adjacent roles that are more successful for people to break into? I think you mentioned that earlier that software engineering roles, which is a bit surprising to me, have been harder to come by. Yeah, are there any other like any adjacent roles that you would recommend folks to go after as recent graduates that gets them working with a PM? And
I would say project management, maybe program management. It may be research associate. And the question should be asked again, as this person is interviewing the company, what are the different disciplines that role would be collaborating with?
Okay.
I just want to add to that. I've seen some interesting candidates over the years who start off in business development or sales. They move into product after that. So, and I'm seeing it this year where there are a lot of young people sort of in our network, even in our kids' networks, because they're graduating. One is graduating from college, and they're starting off with business development or sales jobs because they can't find what they're looking for, and it's a good way to get into a company, get to know your customer, get to know the company. You learn a lot when you're in a outward facing type of position like business development or sales. So for any early career people who are on the chat today or on the fireside chat today, don't overlook those positions. They're not that easy to come by, but there are more of them today. And companies are looking for you. They know it's that time of year, it's graduation time, or if you've been out since December, if you've graduated in December, still a good time to be looking. But get into a company through a sales type of role and work hard, build your network within the company, and then you might find yourself in an opportunity where in about 2 years you can move into a more junior level product role and then grow from there.
In the realm of pivoting, if folks are already working in product management, but they're interested in pivoting to a different industry, is this again a good market for them to do that? And if so, are there any skills that they should highlight that you find transferable across industries?
So I've worked with a number of clients on trying to pivot a bit. I would go back to Larry's response where he shared you may have your reach opportunities, your target, and your easier. If I were to recommend where to put your time, I would say ideally focus on an industry that you have been working within, or sometimes the hook that may get people in the door is if maybe, for example, you may have a specific industry experience in healthcare tech. And so that experience will open the door for you to be considered within a company that targets multiple industries. So that's a nice segue. On a resume, what we would typically do is customize the resume to highlight at the very top career highlights of transferable skills. Have you worked in a highly regulated industry? So it may be healthcare. Maybe you haven't worked in healthcare, but you've worked in financial services. So there's transferable skills there. Who are the clients that you've targeted? Have the clients been C-level? Are they technical? Are they engineers? Are they marketing targets, for example? And then who are the decision makers? Are those similar to the industry that you're trying to break into?
Yeah, the highly regulated thread is definitely something I can relate to being in health tech. So I'm going to start to, pick some questions that from the chat. We've addressed some of them, but one question, I think, Lara, you had mentioned that it'd be good for candidates to be working with a recruiter or a staffing agency that truly understands what they're good at and what they're looking for. Do you have suggestions for how to get connected with a recruiter? How do I find that recruiter or the staffing agency?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what I would suggest is that there are many ways to do a search. For recruiting firms that place product people, so product managers, product marketing. As simple as doing a Google search. You can, go further and do something a little bit more with an AI related search. And you'll start to find a list of firms that have that type of focus. You can go to the next level and say, firms that place product managers at startups or Fortune 500 companies or whatever it is that you're looking for. You can do it by, regions of the country. If you know that you want to be in the Northeast, you can look for firms in the Northeast who might have more strength for you because they're entrenched in that market and have a lot of connections there. So I would start with that. Second is, after you've assembled the list, take a look at the jobs that these firms post on their website. Do you see jobs that, are of interest to you? Even if it's not, if you're not seeing jobs at your level, do they have jobs that, you could say, gee, that would be the type of role I would want maybe for the position after this. So if I'm more early in my career and I'm seeing jobs posted for more mid-level product managers, you can say, I'd like to at least connect with this firm and see if we can develop a relationship. Maybe they can't place me today, but I want to be on their radar screen so that, in 2 or 3 years, if I come back to them, they're going to have some notes on me as being a junior candidate. And we continue to build the story from there. If you're more experienced, again, it's the same concept. Look at the jobs that the firm is posting. Are they of interest to you? Do you fit? And if so, reach out to the contacts for those jobs within the recruiting firms and see if you can build the interest. What I would say is I'm a busy recruiter. I try very hard to get back to people, but I'm not perfect. So if you've reached out to me and you don't get a response, try me 1 or 2 times thereafter. And most likely I'm going to respond to you on the second or the third try because it'll pop up in my inbox. So don't be dismayed if you're not getting a response after a first attempt. Continue to be persistent, and it's just because people are busy today.
I think I saw a hand raise. Did anyone want to unmute and ask their question?
Hello, yes.
Go ahead.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity. So I want to ask this question to Risa. Like just now you have said that a person from fintech industry can go to healthcare industry also. But what Larry and like others are saying that this is very challenging market. So in this challenging market, if there are already people in healthcare industry where they have the functional knowledge and domain knowledge and industry knowledge, then isn't it better to hire somebody from healthcare industry only and not to hire from fintech industry?
I'm happy to answer. It's interesting. It from the talent side, it's one of the more challenging markets to try to switch industry. So I'm not saying I've been successful in working with people on their resumes and we've done it. But sometimes there's also that piece of your network that can make the introduction, and then your resume is able to convey how you have transferable skills. From the company side, it's interesting. Over the years, for example, we've worked with name brand insurers that are based in the Boston area. Some of them want to see talent from their industry, And some specifically ask us for talent that does not come from their industry. They like to see people that come from other industries where there have been where companies have been looking at the lifetime value of a consumer. So they may come from an entirely different industry, but they may go about the way they acquire new customers from a lifetime value standpoint, just as the insurance industry. So to answer your question, it depends on the company. Some would prefer that you come from a different industry, typically healthcare or life sciences, and Pamela's smiling. They typically do prefer that you come from their industry, and in life sciences, it's even more specific than that. They want to know that you're coming from a very similar lab type of environment, working with specifics of blood work or just certain types of research or disease study, whatever it may be. So it's one of the more challenging markets to switch industry.
Got it. Natalia, do you want to ask your question? I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Risa Larry. Always good to hear you. I've been part of BPMA for like decades, so always find your sessions very valuable. And I think we'll find the landscape is changing so drastically. My question is about AI, so I'm bringing it back to AI, not surprisingly. I'm curious what you have observed with hiring companies, whether when it comes to AI experience, whether they're looking for any experience or successful experience is really critical. What if, let's say, I played with 20 tools, nothing popped out, there was no maybe value at the end, but how would that stack upon everything else that's going on? So of course, success, we all want to see success, but like how critical is it? What have you seen? What have you observed? What kind of stories truly resonate with the hiring companies? Thank you.
I can start off with that. I think that's a really good question, Natalia, and it's very common. So the fact that you have used different tools, that's number one, a pro, and something that you want to talk about. If certain tools haven't worked out, what did you learn from that? And, did you decide to pivot and move on to another tool that you thought could solve the problem, and maybe that didn't work? But it's your ongoing curiosity. You're working with different AI-related technologies that you can build a discussion on it. So I think it's all good. Now, how do you present that on your resume? It has to be careful because you don't want to come off as being negative, but you want to come off as being someone who has had the chance to explore. You haven't gotten the results yet, but you're still working towards it. So it's very much like a scientist working on building something and a few labs and it doesn't work, but you have to keep working at it and then eventually it will come. So I think when it comes to the resume, Risa can speak to that and how you might format that in terms of a discussion. I love to have a discussion with people who say, I tried this, it didn't work, but I learned from it. Because it shows that the person has that intellectual curiosity. They're tenacious and they're going to move on to something else. And to me, that is almost a richer conversation than, gee, I tried one thing, it worked, and I was done.
Thank you, Larry. I think that will probably wrap up the Q&A. We've kind of answered some of the questions in the chat. Risa, I'll hand it off to you if you want to close us out with some action items that folks can take today.
Absolutely. So for job seekers, you need to start by building a strategic job search plan. So in this market, it's very easy to get discouraged, not know which direction to take. I recommend that each person sit down, whether they work on their own or work in conjunction with a job search consultant, as to where do you intentionally want to steer your career next and how are you going to do that. So that begins with looking at opportunities that may be of interest, creating a targeted resume for each type of role that you'd like to submit your resume for. The LinkedIn profile is an offshoot of your resume, so there can be no discrepancies because that's a red flag to a potential employer. So if you change the title on your resume or tweak that a bit, it needs to match up with your LinkedIn. What I'm finding with LinkedIn profiles today, a lot of people promote their current company. So in their background banner photo and about section speaking about what they do, they're talking more about the company than their actual brand. So a LinkedIn profile should be conveying the brand that starts with the LinkedIn, which starts with the resume, moves to the LinkedIn, and then is carried over in an interview. I won't go into detail here, but we talked throughout about preparing your stories. So you should be ready to talk about challenges you've been confronted with, the action you've taken, and what were the quantitative results. And then leading with measurable outcomes. So everything that you should do should be based on data, an iterative process that you can describe where you are testing, observing the data, and then making data-driven decisions going forward. So that's for job seekers. For companies seeking specialized PM talent, you need to begin with a realistic job description. So for example, if we as recruiters are working with you on that job, that we have a good roadmap to go by. Because otherwise, the end result isn't what you were targeting. That job description is likely to evolve and change as you interview, and that's okay as long as everybody's part of your feedback loop. An accurate compensation for the market needs to be offered. If not, everybody's wasting their time. What we find quite often is that companies share with us what they're looking for, we find what they're looking for, and then that's not the salary that they're willing to offer. So sometimes the job description needs to be readjusted. Either the salary is raised to accommodate the level of expertise that they need or desire, or the job description is adjusted for a more junior salary. Then companies need to be prepared to provide a compelling reason why people would want to come to join their team. So many people are still employed in this market. Why would they leave where they are to choose to go to another company? And then last but not least, everybody on the interview team needs to be on the same page because it's very disappointing and definitely a turnoff to talent that's interviewing if they find that people on the interview team are sharing contradictory information.
Awesome. Thank you, Risa. We made it. We were able to cover everything and questions in 68 minutes. Again, big thank you to Larry and Risa for coming here and sharing their expertise with us. And thank you to everyone who joined. If you're still on the call, please scan this QR code. It will take you to a short survey. Let us know how this event went. If you have any suggestions for future event, maybe if you want a part 2. And then if you submit your survey response, you'll automatically enter a raffle to win a one-on-one coffee chat with Risa. Again, thank you, everyone. We'll get, I think I saw a link to the recording as well as a link to the slides that we covered. And enjoy the rest of your Thursday. We hope to see you in May for the next event.
Great.
Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.